So here we are with 6 members of the team from Anheuser-Busch, the Williamsburg facility. And they are here to talk to us a little bit about STEM careers and our virtual manufacturing day. Sarah, I'll start with you and have you introduce yourself. And you can just give us a little idea about how long you've been with the company and what roles you played and how long you've been here in Williamsburg or what other places you've been. Just a little introduction, if you don't mind.
Sure. My name is Sarah Schilling. I'm the general manager of the Anheuser-Busch Williamsburg facility. I've been with our company for 20 years. I started in St. Louis, Missouri, and I've worked and moved in 3 different locations of the U.S. St. Louis multiple times, Columbus, Ohio, Atlanta, Georgia, and now here in Virginia. I studied computer and electrical engineering. I went to the University of Missouri, Columbia. I originally did not think this is what I would be doing, working in food and beverage manufacturing, but I greatly enjoy it. I'm going to hand things over to the room where Brandon and Joel are and let 2 of my colleagues introduce themselves next.
Perfect.
Hello, my name is Brandon Randall. I've been with the company for 16 years. I'm a native of Williamsburg. And I've been actually at Anheuser-Busch since graduating from college. So immediately after school, I started here. I've worked in our operations group. I've done a little bit of logistics work. I've done some training work. So a little bit of everything within the brewery. It has been a very fun and exciting experience for me. Thus far, and I look forward to having more fun for the next several years as well.
Hello, I'm Joel Pittman. I'm the brewmaster. I've been with the company 16 years. What got me into manufacturing is as a high school student, I really loved chemistry. That was my favorite course by far. And I was good at math, and I was involved in a lot of leadership activities. So when I went to school, I was studying all the different majors, seeing what I could do in chemical engineering. Really appealed to me because it kind of filled all those different areas that I was interested in. So I signed up for that, and towards the end of my career, I found out I could work in manufacturing and make something that I could enjoy, and my friends and neighbors, everyone could see and enjoy. So it was really cool to be involved in a consumer product that people could drink. So I got involved in that, and it's led to a really wonderful career.
Hi, I'm Alex Burnett. I was born and raised in the Hampton Roads area. I've worked here at the facility for about 9.5 years, operations group, utilities group, training, and now back in the operations group. Definitely loved engineering at the high school level, and I wanted to design cars for my career, and then kind of moved on to more of a leadership role here at the facility. So it's definitely a switch, but still technical and problem solving are my favorite 2 things.
And I'm Eric Soberg. I've been with the company now for 5 years. I've been here in Williamsburg, Virginia for 1 year, did my previous 4 years in Columbus, Ohio. Studied chemical engineering at Ohio State, and kind of like what Joel said, really found myself drawn to chemical engineering and the whole STEM field just because I love taking science classes. I love taking math classes and figuring out problems. And, going into school, thought maybe I wanted to be a doctor. Maybe I wanted to work on an oil field. Maybe I wanted to work in manufacturing, and had the chance to kind of feel out all of those different things. And now that I'm working in food and beverage, really enjoy every single day coming to work and the kind of products that I get to put out into the market and see people enjoy.
And hi, my name is Nick Swanson. I've been with the company for a little less than a year in the official capacity. I just graduated in December of 2019 from Missouri S&T, Missouri University of Science and Technology. And during my high school experience, I was very interested in all like the science and math and things like that, but wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. Just figured it had to do something with engineering. So I went to S&T to actually study aerospace engineering. Was thinking I wanted to get into some, either I go work it for like Boeing or SpaceX or something like that. During my time there, I had a co-op with Anheuser-Busch where I got a chance to work in research and development in the St. Louis facility, and kind of just grew a passion for the work we do here, as well as just get some really good hands-on experience. And since then, I've worked as an internship later with one of our can facilities that manufactures cans. And now I work as a shift manager here at the Williamsburg facility.
So you were introduced, Nick, to Anheuser-Busch through while you were in school through a co-op?
Yeah, so spent about 8 months of the year instead of going to classes, everything like that. I worked in St. Louis and went to the facility every single day. And basically it's like a long internship and got a lot of really good technical experience, as well as kind of gave me a unique chance to be able to tell that this is kind of the direction I want my career to go. Something that I don't think a lot of other industries do. You don't really see the career until you're in the career. And sometimes at that point, it's too late to find out that it's something you don't want to do. But it seems like most STEM jobs have an opportunity at least before you get into the actual final, like the first job, to actually see it.
So there was some mention about aerospace, and I think, Sarah, you had mentioned when we talked earlier about sort of you were looking a different direction too. You didn't really think food and beverage in the beginning with your engineering studies, right?
Yeah. So also, like Nick, I did a co-op for the company in college. At that time, sounds old, but the internet was not as advanced. So I had a college co-op that was designing web pages and helping people network information between our centralized facility and field offices, as well as work on some custom applications. When I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be an architect. And then when I started college, I went into engineering undecided. I also once was going to do aerospace, but my father had worked in the aerospace industry and said, if there's one thing I will dictate for you, it's that I don't want you to get your undergrad in aerospace because it's too volatile. Study a classical degree that you can use in many ways. When I got out of school, I thought I was going into a job working in telecom. But at the time that I graduated college, there was a dot-com bust, and a couple of companies were taking back job offers in the time frame that I was graduating college. So that happened to me, and that was very unsettling. So I went back to Anheuser-Busch because I had worked there in college and knew what to expect. There was a job waiting for me, which at the time was then a good thing. So here I am. 20 years later, I thought I'd never still be doing the same thing. I thought it was how I was going to get my feet under me and stabilize. But due to the fact that every day is a new challenge, I've had fun and stuck around this long.
Very good.
So if you were back in high school now, what would you have done differently as you look back on it? Would you have taken different classes, explored different things, or what would you have done?
Yeah, I think for me, I took a lot of science classes, and I think I knew that I had a love of science and a love of math. So really immersed myself in as many labs and as many clubs related to science and math. I think what I would have done is gotten into some clubs that maybe I wasn't necessarily used to. Something like student council, something like Key Club, something like FFA, something maybe outside my comfort zone that would have given me a little bit different perspective, whether it be from learning about other people, learning about people's backgrounds, gaining some leadership experience and things like that. Because I knew I loved science. I knew I wanted to go after that, but I found throughout college and throughout my career, it's so important to go get different views and different perspectives and different experiences that maybe you're not comfortable with. So reaching out to different clubs, different organizations, and really immersing myself in that experience would have been big for me.
Right. Kind of future thinking. I think sometimes kids don't think about that when they're in high school.
Yeah.
Anybody else do something differently?
For me, I was really into sports in high school, and I really loved that just competitive feeling, trying to be the best at whatever you were doing. So when I started to learn a little bit more about manufacturing, I realized, hey, this is a field where you're trying to get better every day and, be the best you can be. And that really appealed to me. And I was looking for a big challenge. So that's what led me to this field.
I
Eric really hit the nail on the head with what he was saying about trying different activities that are kind of broader than the range you're looking at. I know a lot of the focus in high school, since I'm not very far out of it, was you really find one type of career and take all of your classes for that and everything. Giving yourself the ability to try something different just really helps expand your abilities and expand what your interests are, so you're not fully focused on one thing, and you can also kind of develop yourself and be a little bit more well-rounded.
If I could add something as well, and kind of along the lines of Joe as well, and talking about sports, I think in this conversation about STEM, sciences, math is definitely critical and it's really, really important as a base. But any exposure you can get to understanding how to interact with people, leadership and communication become really important. Just being around the industry for a while, I've noticed that there are some who have a really tough time. They're very strong, technically with science and math, but they really haven't given themselves a chance to learn how to interact, how to communicate, how to lead. And really in our industry, and I'm sure it's similar in many other areas, it's really important that you bring both to the table and want to be successful, unless like a lab kind of environment is something that's more conducive. When you really come into a facility where you have several hundred people that you're interacting with, especially in a leadership type position, being able to communicate and to interact and to connect with people becomes really, really important. And for those that want to have success in their job, you've got to kind of bring both to the table. So if we could kind of go back in the past and you can understand to kind of do both as you come along and developing and learning, that'll be really helpful. So club participation, sports participation, any groups where you get to interact and work on your communication skills is going to really help you in the long run.
I think part of the conversation is this balance between sort of specializing in something and really focusing in on something and getting really, really good at something. And then this sort of well-rounded and balanced part too. We want kids to sort of find out what they're good at and really, really hone a skill, but not at the expense of being really good at only one thing, right? And that's kind of this push and pull, I think, between the technical majors and, more of the liberal arts kind of degrees. And there's that cool conversation about why they're still valid and, how useful they are and what you get out of a liberal arts education. And so I think it's interesting because we do ask kids to sort of identify early on what they really are interested in, and sometimes maybe a little bit too much. It's like, it's okay to dabble in a lot of things and try to figure out how all those things either come together or how they all add to the end product. So it's interesting that you say that. I think it's good advice to not have to worry so much about, thinking about what your resume is going to say. Those summer jobs and those other experiences that you have don't have to always fit really nicely into a plan, right? They can just be for the broad experience.
Right. And high school is a time when it's free to do that exploration. When you get into college, you can spend a lot of money exploring different fields. So it's always good to give them a lot of turn opportunities in high school.
Yeah, and I would add to that, sometimes confirming what you do or don't like is just as valuable as pursuing something that you do like. And, each of us as a whole person, I don't think any one of us is so single dimensional that we don't have hobbies and interests, things to do that make us a well-rounded person. And I couldn't say enough about what was just said before, that interacting with other people is a part of what we do as leaders. And that's why developing skills in leadership and teamwork and even in basic business are important for us to be able to be successful in manufacturing jobs.
So would you say that you had an impression of the manufacturing sector early on and that you learned was maybe not accurate, or did you have familiarity with manufacturing? Had you considered it? It sounds like some of you had exposure in college to Anheuser-Busch, and maybe that was your first exposure to the manufacturing sector. I think what we hear from students sometimes is that their impression is that it's sort of this sort of tedious, repetitive task. And there's lots of people that say that they don't think they'll be interested in manufacturing because they couldn't do the same thing every day. And I've heard, I think, every one of you say that you do, every day is different, and that you have these challenges and this continuous improvement that's brought to you. And that's one of the reasons you like your job. So I didn't know if there was something that you've learned that's been sort of an image buster on that, or if you had anything to add on sort of the impression of manufacturing versus what you have found your reality to be.
I would say our approach here at the facility has been very, like you said, continuous improvement, try to find root cause and solutions to those problems at every level, whether it be an operator or maintenance technician. Just taking that 100% mindset and understanding that we always want to improve the process. So it's not just putting chocolates on a conveyor or that kind of stuff. It's opening your eyes and understanding what can you do to make this process better.
It's like problem solving, continuous problem solving, right? You identify something and try to figure out a better way to do it constantly.
Yes.
Does that responsibility fall to just certain people, or is that something that is, everybody in the facility plays a part and everyone's encouraged to look for those?
Yeah, I feel like with our mindset, where everyone is involved. Everyone has a voice and has the ability to try to solve that problem and bring in the right people to help solve that problem, whether it be people with technical knowledge, anyone in the facility, bringing them into the problem solving group.
Yeah, I think you touched on, kind of the perception of manufacturing that might have been had. I touched on it earlier, but I had been looking into, the oil and gas industry pretty extensively before I found Anheuser-Busch. And, that struck me as a very manufacturing, you see pictures of people that have dirt and mud on them, and that's the stigma you get. But I would say now, when I walk around the facility and I hear someone call it a factory, something goes off in my head and I go, I guess I do work at a factory, because I think I've immersed myself so much in that this is my career and this is the product I make and these are the people I interact with and these are the problems I solve, that it's almost as if this is a career, this isn't a manufacturing environment. So I don't think that there was a single moment where that light switch went on, but I think it's just a matter of immersing yourself in it and being willing to attack it and learn about it, that you can really understand that manufacturing on an oil field is different than at a chocolate factory or at a Pepsi Cola plant. It's all going to be very different, and it's all going to have its own special quirks and challenges with it.
And I think one of the key things is it may be that every single day the same product is coming through or the same product is being shipped out, but the problems that you're dealing with as an engineer or a manager or anything like that, or even just operators and technicians, those are something that's every single day. So while the product might be the same, monotonous, your challenges are different, and it's going to be something that tests you every single day, and it never gets boring.
Well, and we've had this conversation on some of the tours. In your industry in particular, the challenge is consistency. You to your point, I mean, the product is the same, but it has to be exactly the same, right? I mean, there's an expectation. People want to, when they purchase that product, they want to know what they're getting, or you want it. If it's their first experience with the product, you want it to represent the best that the product is. So consistency is a big deal. It's not the easiest thing in the world to put out the exact same quality, high quality product, every single day, every single batch. So that's almost a challenge in and of itself, but it's it's an important part of it. It's not, it doesn't make the actual process of creating your product boring. It actually is the exciting part, is that it has to be right on every time.
Yeah, and in today's world, I would say there's variability in the ingredients that we use, right? So, and especially during the time frame of how we're talking to you during the pandemic, supply of all of our materials has also been disrupted. So we have lots of puzzles and problems to solve when it comes to logistics and scheduling and being able to be agile and flexible. And we're often talking about developing plan A, plan B, moving things around. If you like puzzles and problem solving, I would say that that's also a daily part of what we're doing in the overall supply chain of receiving materials to produce something and then to support our customers.
Yeah, you know what you need. So you have to make sure you have it at the right time. And that's a whole different side of things. Yeah.
So I'll ask the next question. So as the division's career coach, I meet with all kinds of students, some that know college is definitely not for them, but they have no clue what they want to do after high school. And some that know they're going to college, but have no idea what they want to major in. Or some that know exactly what their career path is going to be. But what I want to know is, in manufacturing, in particular at Anheuser-Busch, what kind of careers would fit with the people that might not want to go to college, or people that do have a college degree?
I would say we're looking a lot into the trades. So, mechanics, electricians, people with the background, whether it be around timing of equipment or programming of equipment electrically. We're definitely looking for people with that background. So definitely apprenticeships, outside trades, such as electricians and mechanics. So that's what we really look for from a maintenance perspective. From an operator perspective, it'd be just in line, someone who has a mechanical or electrical aptitude and understands, how cars work or how engines work, or how the robot that maybe you play with or your children play with, right? Just understanding how things work together to put out a product.
So in line with those kind of careers, are there certain certifications or education that would make somebody look more attractive for those type of trades jobs?
Definitely programmable logics, any type of programming education. There's a lot of certifications that can come along with that. A lot of different electronics. What else can you think of?
I can't think of a single name, but
yeah, there's definitely apprenticeships around the area that I've seen and come accustomed to seeing on resumes.
Okay. Anyone else?
I would say even for our operators, I think Alex is talking a lot about our maintenance technicians who either have electrical or mechanical specialty. We're also looking for people to be operators of our equipment. And in general, we're not looking for a specific certification, but if you talk about teamwork, some people who come with existing fork truck operator skills, but really continuous improvement is something that we've talked about a lot. There are programs in lean manufacturing or Six Sigma and statistical analysis. All of those types of things are helpful when it comes to that continuous improvement mindset. 5S is big in the foundation of our management system and how we look to have the right tool at the right place, the right time to keep people doing things safely, quality, and efficiently. All of those things are applicable, as well as in today's world, everyone at every level in our organization is interacting with basic computer systems. So the skills in Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, being able to, interface with those types of computer programs are important for all of our employees at this time. And then the last thing I would say is we have special analytics in our quality assurance department. So people who work in our lab, in addition to requiring some statistical background, also have chemistry or biology degrees.
Okay, thank you. What about engineering? So we do have a lot of students that think they want to go into engineering. At Anheuser-Busch, what type of engineers do you all employ?
So we have engineers of all backgrounds. So, we've talked about some aerospace engineering, some electrical computer engineering, chemical, and, your engineering specialty doesn't necessarily determine what role you're going to take on. We have chemical engineers that are helping to rebuild mechanical parts. We have electrical engineers that are helping to formulate beer and build recipes. We have, industrial engineers that are working on logistics. So it's really more of just the engineering background and being able to problem solve and think critically and, have that base knowledge of learning and being able to pick up and learn very quickly is really what we're looking for from an engineering field. And I would say the engineering specialty you pick is really more of where does your passion lie? Where do your strengths lie? What are you interested in?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Are there jobs where the degree is required, or I'm sure like in the lab you need some background in the biology and the chemistry, but I'm thinking about the students that often think that they are interested in engineering, and when you ask them more questions, they don't know yet. They can't tell you like what kind of engineering or what they want to do. Some of those kids, I think, have those abilities to sort of problem solve and understand how things are made and how to fix them. They may not be supported in a way that can go and get their engineering degree, but would they, they still have that skill set. And so would they still be eligible for some of those same positions, or is there kind of like a line of demarcation between the jobs that you need a degree for and the jobs that you don't need a degree for?
I would say in general, the jobs that you need a degree for are leadership roles. There's, many different types of degrees that are considered. We talked a lot about engineering degrees, but we also hire food scientists, chemists, biology degrees, and supply chain engineers or information engineers. I would say that you can be dabbling. And I think we talked a little bit earlier about co-ops and internships. Places like ours also offer part-time employment seasonally in the summer. And so I would say if you're interested, but you're not sure, exploring for those types of part-time opportunities, whether it be fill-in work on the weekends or a seasonal opportunity, those types of things are also ways for you to get a better view and determine if this is something you want to pursue either as a career or a degree path.
So a little bit for the parents out there, what would you say about pay scale or livable wage scale for either the degreed or the non-degreed folks? Not that we need to get into specifics, but just in terms of like a starting position, maybe right out of high school, is that, and then also advancement opportunity. I think there is a kind of a perception that it might not either be stable work or you might not be able to support yourself for the long term if you're not going to college and you're getting into manufacturing. So if that's not true, it's a good opportunity to sort of dispel that.
Yeah, I think on the full-time production operator job, which is it's our number one position. We have the most of that type of employee. That's a really good job that you can build a great career and a great life from. So those are really competitive positions, though. A lot of people really want that job. It comes with a good wage, great benefits, and good stability. So a lot of times what we find is people will start off in a seasonal role and to sort of have the opportunity to both learn the industry and also prove themselves as a good future full-time employee. We also have part-time work on the weekends where some people will come in and cover the weekends for us and run the production equipment, do cleaning for us. And that's another opportunity to get your foot in the door and start to build something there. And then ultimately from there, we usually pick our full-time employees out of that group. So it's not, there's a lot of demand, right, for these types of roles, but through hard work and continuing to build yourself and learn different skills, you can put yourself in position to get one of those roles.
So two things I heard there that I think are important. And one is in the path to a full-time position is often from a part-time or seasonal. So you don't want to necessarily only be applying for full-time jobs. You want to get your foot in the door because there's a lot of advantage to that. And then the reason why that's important is because the wages and the benefits are good enough that they are competitive. And so, I mean, it's kind of a message out there, I guess, that it's not a bad, safety kind of plan. I mean, it's a legit, really very sustaining, very successful and rewarding option for folks, which I think is important.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to that our facility has been here in Williamsburg for almost 50 years. And working in manufacturing in a consumer products goods industry is part of what brings stability not only to our frontline employees, but also to all of us. At least I personally feel that way. To distinguish a little bit about the types of jobs we've talked about, there is probably a plateau as far as wage earned in the frontline employee role, and opportunities to develop and grow will be internal to the facility. So I think previously we've talked a little bit about mobility in a company like ours, and I think you've heard all of us talk about different degrees of mobility and moving at the right time for our own interests. But I would say jobs that you get a degree for in secondary education are going to give you more mobility as far as career path and advancement to continue to do different roles. I think no matter what your background, we offer different flexibility for both types of employees, but your wage rate advancement would be higher with the degree program, but be stable with benefits in a frontline employee role.
But you do, Sarah, have a percentage. What percentage of your employees at your Williamsburg facility are sort of salary versus hourly?
Quick ballpark, it's about 15% of our employees are salaried, and about 75% are full-time frontline operators, technicians, and the remainder would be part-time employees when I just do the rough math.
Yeah, okay.
Brandon, you got something to expand upon the different opportunities?
Well, I would just say generally, I mean, if we're talking to high school students, I mean, I think one thing to keep in mind, and you probably heard this throughout this conversation already, is if you're a high school student, one, get out there and get some opportunities to do some real work in some companies. So if manufacturing might even generally be of interest, even if it might not be for money, maybe you got to volunteer or some kind of way, try to have some conversations with some industries you might be interested in to see if they give you an opportunity to get exposure to what they do. I think that's really important. Nick has talked about being a co-op. I was an intern as well. So there's something to be said to even getting around an industry and getting around people in a company. That familiarity, honestly, can many times open doors for you. So don't be bashful if it's a part-time opportunity, if it's a weekend opportunity, if it's an unpaid internship or a volunteer opportunity, that can really reap benefits and dividends down the road. So don't shy away from opportunities to meet people or to have an opportunity to interact with a company or a potential employer, especially in high school, because it's a great time to just make connections, and that can mean a lot for you financially and in many ways down the road.
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah, be proactive.
Do you offer internships to high school students? Or I know there's seasonal work that they could apply for, and there's part-time work that they could potentially apply for. Are most of do you have high school, like, job shadowing or internships, or is it mostly the college students that you see come in for that?
I would say due to the nature of our industry, there is a minimum age requirement. So that restricts high school learning, but just like this opportunity, to talk to people and professionals, we love to interact with students in our local community. But seasonal employment is typically for those over the age of 18.
Okay.
But I think in this increasing virtual world that we have right now, there are opportunities for students to network with employers they might not have been able to before, because we're doing it all by Zoom, and students are familiar with that and employers are familiar with that. So if we can kind of do some of these opportunities virtually that students could do, because I know a lot of the manufacturers won't allow under 18 because of the liability and the safety precautions. So I think there's opportunities where we could do things a little different. I have a question. So we talked some about communication and how important that is. What other type of soft skills do you prize at Anheuser-Busch? What do you feel that students need as they come in to work for you all?
I would say you'd have to be strong as an individual contributor as well as in a team atmosphere. Not only leading the team, but also being a good team member. I would say those are really good skills to what do you bring to the team? How do you guys work together cohesively? Not only leading the team, but also being a part of a team.
And I would say it also takes a lot of resiliency. Some days don't go quite as well as you hope they would, just like a test doesn't go as well as you thought, or a football game doesn't go as well. And I think it's important to be able to bounce back and learn from it, and then approach the next day with the same amount of energy you brought and do things differently.
One thing that I'd say really distinguishes people, whether it's operators, management, anything like that, is just being self-driven. There's a lot of opportunity always to be improving, whether it's the conditions in your area or just improving on the process and things like that. And the people who stand out tend to be the ones who take initiative and kind of actually either help clean up or are offering solutions to problems that we've been dealing with for a long time, just anything like that.
Yeah, I think it got mentioned already, but communication's a big part of it too. Just being able to talk to people, being comfortable talking about things with others is a big deal.
That whole plays well with others category, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, being a good teammate,
So we have a lot of parents that watch these kind of things and are involved in their students' life and helping them make decisions about the future. What would you say to parents and their students about careers in manufacturing in general?
Well, I don't know if I answered your question directly earlier, but as far as careers in manufacturing, I think in general, people can think that it's dirty or it's a dumbed down way of doing things. It might not be as technical, but we're exclusively looking for people who have technical aptitude to be leaders and to be technicians, throughout our entire organization. So if there's anything in general I would say about manufacturing is, all of us are people who have technical aptitude and are looking for ways to improve and make a good quality product. So I think in general that's recognized, but I would always want people to remember that, this is an area where you can do things with your hands. You can always contribute to the team. And all of us take pride in the area that we work being a safe place and putting out a good product.
One thing I would add to this question as well is in this conversation around STEM. So for myself personally, I'm a graduate of Bruton High School, so I'm a local product. And I didn't really have a good handle leaving high school, what I would really do. But I knew that science and math, if I could do well in those areas, it would at least give me a chance to have opportunity to have some choices. So for parents and for students, if you don't understand or know right now, it's okay, but put the chips in your favor, and focus really hard on doing well in those areas in school. And while you figure things out, it's gonna put you in a good position to have choices and options when it's time to make a decision or it's time to look for opportunities. So I would say work really hard in your science classes, work really hard in your math classes, and just continue to put that work in so that when it's time to look at college, if that's something you want to do, you have options and choices. If it's time to go into the work field, you also will, because the world is moving. We're not going to go backwards with technology. We're only moving forward. So it's going to become that much more important for you to have a solid foundation and have aptitude in these areas, because most of your opportunities in the future are going to involve one of the two, science and math, or both. So with that being said, make sure that you focus on doing your absolute best in those areas if you want to have opportunity.
Great. I know Sarah mentioned people think of manufacturing as dirty. And I was amazed when I started doing manufacturing with Kate and going to all these different manufacturers. Almost every position in those plants is using technology. So it's not, like you all said, it's not just sitting on a line, putting a little widget in. I mean, there's technology involved in every facet of it. So if you don't know that technology, I mean, you probably won't have a job in manufacturing because you just use it in everything.
I would say definitely our machines and our technology, our automation are fast paced, and so that's part of what makes it exciting for all of us.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one of the more vivid impressions of the tour, I think, or just the rate at which those bottles or cans kind of come down the line in the filling, at the filling process. It's, you can't blink and kind of capture how many
1 million bottles went by.
It's like that is pretty
fascinating.
Pretty quick. Are there good opportunities? Somebody gets their foot in the door. I mean, they're not locked in, right? I mean, this is kind of the idea that I think a lot of people have too, is that if you make kind of that first step and it's a bad one, that it's going to kind of get you stuck someplace. My experience with the manufacturing is that there's opportunity once you are in the organization to explore different career options. And some organizations even offer, the opportunity to go back to school once you're employed, or some training opportunities inside. So maybe just talk a little bit about advancement opportunities within Anheuser-Busch.
I think it was mentioned a little bit, especially by Brandon, talking about how he's kind of had a play in different roles throughout the facility here in Williamsburg. But in general, I feel like with most large STEM companies, and especially here at Anheuser-Busch, if you're starting out in the manufacturing, specifically in like the operation side of things, you'll have opportunities if you want, or if you're trying to move away from operations. There's logistics side of things, there's the quality side, more at the lower. I know a lot of people strive to go towards like the corporate side of it, where you're doing more of like office work and things like that. And there's opportunities for that basically just throughout the company and throughout, I'd say, most STEM larger companies.
Yeah, I think Anheuser-Busch is very good about encouraging that sort of advancement and also catering to what people want to do. If people want to go back to school, we're going to support that. If people want to get very good at a role for 6 or 7 years, then we're going to support that. If somebody wants to travel to California and work in California, or they want to work in St. Louis at a corporate job, we're going to find a way to make that happen, because it's important for not only the company to have well-rounded individuals, but it's important to develop each individual person to to have those experiences and to get different roles that Nick mentioned and really well-round who our future leaders are going to be.
So the more.
The one thing I'll add, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The one thing I'll add is once you're in the workforce, I think the best way to get, to where you want to be is to really do a good job at whatever you're currently doing. So you really want to excel in that role. And people will see that and they'll want you as part of their team, and they'll either reach out to you or you'll have a lot more opportunities based on your current performance. So you really got to focus on what you're doing right now and do the best you can at that.
That's good advice, because lots of times you're on your way to something, right? You perceive yourself as kind of at a stepping stone, but you take that opportunity that you have right now as seriously as the job that you are trying to get, because they're all important. And so if you contribute at wherever you are, it speaks volumes to what you're capable of. One thing I've noticed about manufacturing is it's not necessarily just the production jobs. There's the marketing jobs and the sales jobs and the sort of the legal side of things as well. So I think in Anheuser-Busch's case, a lot of those are sort of concentrated at St. Louis, but I think it's worth mentioning to folks that there's other opportunities in addition to the STEM opportunities within the larger organization. So I know this is a conversation about STEM, but for the parents who might have multiple kids and be watching this with an ear thinking about multiple opportunities for their children, I think that's something that gets overlooked sometimes, is even the students that think, oh no, I really love accounting, I want to be an accountant. They don't necessarily think about manufacturing employers as a good place to take those skills. So it takes a lot of different people to run your operation, and sometimes we think about things a little bit too linear, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say that in the last conversation that, even if you start in a STEM career within our company, we're global, multinational. We have facilities all around the world, all around the US in different capacities, even region sales offices and people who work in different functions of agriculture, container manufacturing. So it takes a large support system. So you can start in a science or a STEM-based field in manufacturing, and you could go work in procurement or sales. I have friends who have done that after they've worked a few years in one of our manufacturing facilities and wanted to explore a different aspect of the company. And as Anheuser-Busch, we support that. And we think that people who understand the business are a good asset in different aspects and different functions. And to your point, Kate, yes, like we have support structures. We have a procurement department. We have accounting department. We have HR managers. We have safety personnel, environmental and sustainability managers and engineers. So it takes a full gamut of people with different specialties. So, don't tune out a manufacturing employer even if you're not pursuing a STEM-based career.
And I think sort of when you just talked about environmental and sustainability, and I know that there are students who I think lean toward biology or certain sciences because of the more of the sort of environmental interest. But they might not think about Anheuser-Busch from an environmental perspective, but water is your number one main ingredient, right? So obviously you have some concern about the quality of the inputs that make your product. That includes water and the grains. So just a little reminder about sort of the environmental perspective that you have as a company.
Yeah. So, we have a responsibility for, we call sustainability, and our sustainability efforts go beyond water. We're looking to continuously improve and reduce our energy consumption, reduce our carbon footprint. We think it's our responsibility in the communities where we operate to operate responsibly. And all of those things do drive efficiencies and costs for us, but there are also ways where we ensure the footprint of where we do business by being responsible in the communities where we do business.
Sherry, did we forget to ask anything? Is there something else we need to hit on?
I don't think so. I mean, if we want to wrap up, if there's any other advice you want to give high school students and their families as they watch this, as they're trying to determine what in the world they want to do when they grow up. Anybody has any advice? I mean, you all get a lot of great advice already, but if there's anything else you want to add.
I would just say, even if you're not great at math and science, if you find puzzles interesting, if you like problem solving, if you find a certain aspect of chemistry to be cool, even if you're not getting straight A's, don't give up. If it's something that interests you, don't write off our whole industry or a technical career if you've had an upset in one class. And I think someone said earlier that resilience and perseverance are really necessary in any career path. I think being able to speak to the lessons learned when you didn't give up are very important. And any of us could talk about the fact that we were required to be experts in calculus to get through school, but that's not something we depend upon every day. So don't worry if it wasn't something that was your best class. Keep at it, try hard, and use that as an opportunity to talk to people about your resiliency.
Good advice.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any last words?
Let's say Sarah kind of took what I was originally going to say of not stopping like the first time you have an issue with like a math class or something like that, just if you're interested to keep pushing through. But the other thing I would say is just get involved in as much as you can, whether that's while you're still in high school or when you're moving into college or whatever you're doing after. Get in things outside the scope of what you're doing, studying, doing, and everything like that. The well-roundedness will really help with connections, as well as just making sure that you kind of have just more skill sets than the just being very good at math and science or something like that.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Sarah, but we probably should do a little shout out to women in STEM out there, not to take anything away from the rest of your team, but can you talk a little bit about, do you feel like there was a specific experience or something that helped, or maybe it's just a note for folks that don't understand? Sarah's the plant manager for the facility in Williamsburg. So she has moved around and has had good opportunities with the company. So I just didn't know if they wanted to give a little shout out to encourage some women to think about it in case they were wondering if there was a role for them.
Sure.
It's a big, heavy weight I just asked you to carry.
Well, I think what's most important is I get that this is targeting high school students, but the reason why I talked about the resiliency and not giving up, I had some very influential math and science teachers who were women that were, very meticulous, very driven, very encouraging. And I think they were influential in charting my path, as well as trying to follow in the footsteps of my own father. I'm the oldest. So, I was always the little girl following him around, asking questions as he's fixing things around the house or working on the farm. So being curious and inquisitive. But whether it be for young girls, young boys, anyone who maybe doesn't even have somebody in their life that is in a math and science related field, I think it's very important prior to even high school, junior high school, to not be told that just because you're a certain demographic, that certain jobs aren't meant for you. So for me, it's very important, as you've heard several of us say, not to give up on a couple of hiccups in a math or a science class, because continuing to pursue some of those math and science classes in high school, pre-high school, and early college level create and keep doors open for you. Without studying certain math and science classes, you're closing doors for yourself. And whether that's an accountant, whether that's a certain business profession, or whether that's a career in STEM. So I would say as I think Brandon said, technology is here to stay. We're going forward in this regard, not backwards. So, try your best not to close doors. Be true to yourself and what brings you passion, because you definitely don't want to be stuck doing something that you don't enjoy. That's a whole different degree of conversations, but, make sure that you don't close doors too early when you have a couple of small side steps.
So getting a bad grade in a course does not mean that you're no good at fill in the blank. It's important to not let one case or one class or one test limit your options or define your skill set.
Yep. Stay curious.
Good advice.